Go.
Welcome to Tuesdays in the Garden. My name is Sue Kenney, and I'm a member of the North Madison Congregational Church. The groundhog was right. We are going to have, and we did have, an early spring. And thus, everyone is enjoying beautiful hydrangeas this year. These are my hydrangeas. This is a deep purple. I've waited 4 years for this hydrangea to bloom, and it has finally bloomed. This is the hydrangea that we did a demonstration on with the holly tone. Coming around to the side of the deck, we have a couple of multicolors, some light pink, some blues. Straight ahead, this is the one, this is the hydrangea. It's called Endless Summer Hydrangea. This is the one I put the lime around to get the pink hydrangeas, but I don't think there was enough base in the soil this year. It may take another season, see if we can make a color change. Coming up to the deck, what's neat about the hydrangeas is I just love the way they come through the fence. The fencing on the deck. Oh. These hydrangeas are coming right onto the deck. And again, the sun is a little off. Kind of, there we go. Just going to be coming off the deck right now. The first hydrangea plant was given to me as a gift, and I love them so much that I went out and bought a few more and put them around the deck when the deck was built around 12 or 13 years ago. Coleus hosta that the deer didn't get. For Cynthia, it was early April. It was in full bloom, yellow, beautiful bush. I'm going to take you along the side of the backyard. I have some Hydrangea that blooms all summer. Jacob's Ladder, pretty blue flower. It's already bloomed. The hosta, of course, is a delicacy for the deer. Got 2 of my hostas. I love this fern. Bought it at the store a few years ago, and they do not multiply. In the back, coral bells or heuchera. These are all perennial. Again, a fern that I had purchased. Here's the other hosta. Deers love it. It's a laurel. Blooms pretty white flowers in the spring. This is one of my favorite plants here. The sedum. Sedum bloom in the fall. A lot of buds ready to go. I love this rock. Has a lot of moss on it. And then coming up to all my ferns that I dug out of the woods, and they have multiplied. But first, this is a Japanese willow bush. It's very pretty. It does a little better with more sun that it gets. And again, all the ferns. Again, they multiply. It doesn't take long. These just came up within a week. They have multiplied into the lawn. Coming along here, I love this plant. It's called the Lamian. and it can be invasive. Of course, the bleeding heart that already has bloomed in the spring, and the fern and the lamian are coexisting very nicely together in this picture. Beautiful. When I planted the coral bells, planted it specifically next to this big boulder rock. I like the colors in the rock, and it seems to be pretty happy here. In the shade, a lot of shade. These are all shade plants. This was a yellow primrose, a stilby, already has bloomed. This one was white. The astilbe purple toward the end of its bloom color. And the hellebore, of course, we know the pretty light pink flower in the spring. You kind of have to look under the leaves to find it. A lot of these perennials I purchased over the last 6 to 8 years at the Madison Flower Shop. I'm sorry, the Madison Flower Club. Each member digs up about 6 plants, and they have an annual sale next to the Deacon John Grave House. This is a type of begonia that again blooms in the spring. And in the back, the mayapple. It's gotten a little brown. I had to stake them up. They were falling right over. Finally, more ferns. Bleeding heart and a stilbe. Earlier I misspoke. This is Solomon's seal, and it's a perennial. I bought a lot of these perennials at the Madison Garden Club, which takes place the Saturday after Mother's Day for their annual sale. Also, as a kid, I loved to collect rocks, and this has been a rock collector's paradise in my own yard. This is a quartz rock that I found and dug out while I was gardening one day. We have another pink quartz in this rock right here, which I think is so neat. If I can get the right angle here. And there's a lot of minerals in the soil. So we have sort of some specks of mica in this rock. Would you ever believe that you would find mica in your own backyard? And finally, this rock here also has a piece of mica. And that's pretty incredible to find in my own backyard. Here is another small garden I created in my backyard. I have a few rose bushes, which don't get a lot of sun, but they do their best. And at times I've kind of neglected them because they've been in the back, so they don't get as much attention. I love this pink rose bush here. Of course, nothing like Linda's, but at least I am enjoying my few rose bushes that I do have. What I like about it is you just pinch back the roses and they bloom all summer long. Here's another small bud getting ready to bloom. And over to the left, I have some raspberries, wild raspberries and blackberries. And this is so special because when I was a kid, we would go out to the woods and pick raspberries. We'd come around here, and my mother, we'd bring them home, and my mother would make raspberry muffins. They were so good. So this is very special that these wild raspberries just happen to be growing in my yard. What a nice surprise. I'd like to show you my raised garden tomato plants. Here I have the Better Boy, and we stake that up a little bit with a stake and a couple of ties because they've grown so tall, as well as the cages. And to the right of the Better Boy is a Mountain Merit, my first tomato right here. Look at that, ready to be picked. How nice. The other two plants, we have a Better Boy and another Mountain Merit tomato plant, and basil to the right. And this was a step. This is an upside down step that was going into the back of my house before we built the deck. So about 10 or 12 years ago, I turned it upside down and I made a planter out of it. We also have a little bit of parsley growing as well. And just remember to fertilize the tomatoes every couple weeks. Okay, over to the left, we have some raspberry bushes that were planted probably about 20 years ago. And one thing that is really neat, when I was a kid, we used to go and dig up the violets in the woods. And this is the violet leaves. The violets come out more in the spring. And this just happened to naturally grow under all of my raspberry plants. And it's such a nice surprise because I love violets. And before you know it, they just appear growing under my raspberries. So that's kind of a treat. These raspberries have already been harvested, and we're gonna wait for a new batch in the fall. Straight ahead is it's a viburnum, smells wonderful, beautiful white flowers in the spring. And over to the left, we have a Rose of Sharon I probably planted 8 or 10 years ago to hide the propane tank. And it's just doing so well. Doesn't get a lot of sun, but just enough. I'll bring you up a little closer to a couple of the blooms. And quite a few buds haven't come out yet, but it's just beautiful. And on either side of the Rose of Sharon are 2 lilac bushes, which already have bloomed in the spring, and a peony in the spring as well. I'd like to take you to the front of the house. Last summer, the Shasta daisies on the left were just completely surrounding the mailbox, but they didn't seem to survive the winter. I've had them here for years. So what I did was I planted a coreopsis. It's a perennial. I tried to plant a clematis. It was prettier earlier on, but not doing as well. And we have a zinnia, which I grew as a kid quite a bit. I just don't have a lot of sun in my yard. And straight ahead, my father had a lot of salvias in the yard. He would go and buy the red salvias every year. But now this is a perennial and it's more of a purple color. It's a dwarf spruce. It's been growing quite a bit over the years. Taking you in the front. This plant is called a scrubby sangfoil. And I just love it for some reason. It's just pretty. It's been flowering, yellow flowers all summer. And it's beautiful. And in the back here is a Japanese spirea. I love this when it comes out. It does flower, sort of a kind of a purplish cranberry color. Of course, we have the hydrangeas in the front. And coming in the back here, here's another hydrangea. Love the multicolors, just beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I've had this plant here when I certainly bought the house, and it loves the rocks. It is a rock spray coton aster. Okay. And believe it or not, this is a mountain laurel, and it does bloom in the spring. I have a couple in the front as well. Beautiful flowers in the spring. Okay, coming around to the right side here. This was also something very special because as a kid, I absolutely loved the Jack in a Pulpit. And this one is doing quite well here. It's past its time, but you can see the little seedlings, and it has multiplied over the last couple of years, and now it's like a little shrub there. Okay, likes it in the shade. Coming over to the left, around the lamppost, I have some begonias that probably need a little bit more shade. And straight ahead, my father used to love to collect land art statues, and after he died, I got this one, a little boy and the pigs, and this was just gray, all gray. I had it in the yard, and my mother took it to Florida, and in ceramic she painted it, and I thought she did a great job. You would never even see the daisies, but it's just beautiful. Straight ahead, in the front of my house, I have a limelight hydrangea, and this has only been here about 5 years, and it has just grown so large, and it is beautiful. Nice big white cone-shaped flowers. Very pretty for putting in a vase. And of course, along the front, I have daisies, which are perennial. And I got started with the daisies from my father. And they're really toward the end right now. And in between the daisies, I planted impatiens, so that when the daisies are done, which they will be done soon, I will have some nice color and flowering in the front of the house. Again, the daisies. Here's a few more impatiens. And another limelight hydrangea. Very pretty. A few more impatiens along the side of the garden. In the front here, a couple of boxwood shrubs. I have a pink hydrangea, which is getting toward the end as well. Very pretty. And I have a couple of more sedums, and they bloom in the fall. Getting ready, maybe in another couple weeks. This garden I created a few years ago in the corner here. I have a bird feeder, a daylily, which blooms a little bit more toward the spring. Another daylily. And on the left here, I have some pachysandra that I really like because it just kind of grows over the leaves. It likes the shade, and it'll come right up to my lawn, which looks really nice instead of having a big leaf pile. On August 4th, 2020, Isaias took down my Rosa Sharon bush, and we're in the process of doing a rescue mission. See if we can rescue this bush. Well, my son and I just rescued the Rose of Sharon. It's been traumatized, but in no time it'll be standing tall again soon. Doesn't look too bad right now. I am grateful for my love of gardening. It has brought a lot of joy into my life. When we connect with nature, we have another opportunity to see how God is present in our lives. I hope you enjoyed my garden tour